To also sell other products, see online for more details.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
We are off to America to talk to Jon-Christopher. He is the White House correspondent for Real Political News. Hello, John.
What a pleasure to talk with you. You're the brightest part of my day so far, Nick.
It's a very early part of the day where you are, so let's not get carried away. How
it's
about...
been raining all day, so it's miserable.
Right. How about that parade, eh?
How about it? What parade?
It was the most... maybe the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen.
Oh, really? Well, you've got some room then for improvement. You know, the thing is, it was a shame because all across the country, we celebrated, and right here in Washington, the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. And it was their birthday parade, and it's a valuable and a very noble thing. And of course, Trump wanted to glom on with it and make it into his birthday parade. Now he got what he pledged for. He got rain and a little turnout, and it seems that some saw him fall asleep, and Marco Rubio was yawning.
Yes.
I mean, there were 1,000 tanks out there. We had to close. My wife and I were trying to come in during the beginning of the parade, and we couldn't get over the bridges. We had to go way up north. And it was a one-lane bridge, and because the tanks couldn't come over that, so we were a bit frightened about it, but it worked out okay. And there were 2,000 rallies across the country, and literally 5 million people. So, the bad pictures is not what Trump wanted, and I'm afraid he got some lousy shots.
Yeah, well, he looked like he was having a really bad time, because I'm sure what he had in mind was that great display of military precision that would happen in North Korea, somewhere like that. I'm sure he's seen those.
Got that right.
He's seen those videos, and that is probably what he had in mind. But what it looked like from the clips that I saw was just a bunch of guys ambling to the shops. They weren't even marching.
No, you got it exactly right. And we have an authoritarian president, and it's really very frightening at the moment. And he would like to be like Kim Jong-un or like others I won't even mention. And he would like to have them all, bowing and in lockstep, goose step, whatever you want to call it, across from him, and he can take all the power and feel like he's a great dictator. General Eisenhower, who you know very well, and Operation Overlord, I know you know, you're not that old. Operation Overlord, which he combined his talents with Monty and Churchill and FDR and all the great leaders, and he invaded on D-Day, which wasn't maybe a week ago, France, Normandy. And Eisenhower said, he was the commander of D-Day, you know that. He said for the U.S. to hold a military parade to show off its might and imitate the Soviet Union would make the nation look weak. And boy, Eisenhower was always right, and he got that right too.
So has Donald Trump actually mentioned crowd size? Because he had a particularly embarrassingly small crowd at his little rally. Meanwhile, as you've suggested, around the country, millions of people turned out in order to protest against him.
Well, they did, and they did it honorably, and they did it peacefully. And he tried to, he's trying to federalize our National Guard, which is driving the governor of California, who he should watch out for, Governor Newsom, which is the fourth largest economy in the world. And he federalized the troops there. He sent in the Marines, and it was embarrassing. And we're looking at, it's an embarrassment for you to have to ask me about it because you're an honest broker. You're looking at it, and I hope this is an okay word. You can always cut it, but he always was a size queen.
Yes, particularly about crowds and as pertains to his own popularity. Yeah, he must be absolutely fuming. I would be surprised if Pete Hegseth lasts the weekend.
Well, he already blamed him.
Did he?
I've got friends at the White House. I'm there quite often, and he's left to go to the G7 in Calgary in Canada tonight. I guess he's going to try to see if they can finally make it to 51st straight. But I don't think Mr. Carney, Prime Minister there in Canada, is going to fall for that one. And he's with Macron. He's with Starmer for the next few days, and he's going to get his what for. And the fact is that he blames Hexit. He blames anybody but himself. He wants to be a ruler. He loves Putin. He thinks he's a strong man. This is sad for us in this country because we're not used to that. We're used to democratic leaders, and we don't know how he got in, but we do know how he got in. But hopefully, the justices will try to prevent him from doing more damage. And then we have an election coming up in October, and we may have a real switch in the House and in the Senate, and it may help the honorable people get what they have to say out there without Trump taking over.
Do you really think that you're going to have an election in October, or will he by then have instigated the Insurrection Act or any other ancient law that he can find in order to call a state of emergency and cancel forthcoming elections?
Well, it's the elections in 2026. Okay, so we have time. I shouldn't say we. I'm supposed to be apolitical. America has time to get ready for his nonsense and watch what he's trying to do. And this is all many say, and some wise people, wiser than I, say this is in a sense a dress rehearsal for what he's going to try to do. And he wants to use the military to silence all criticism. There is actually a law that says that Trump cannot do this. It's called the Posse Comitatus, and it was enacted in, I think, 1878 or something like that. And you're not allowed to put U.S. troops against U.S. citizens. That's not what they're for. And I think we're getting the enlightened people and the judges are getting aware that he's trying to pull the shenanigans, and they could fend him off. And I think that's what's going to happen before the election in 2026.
For a little while there, after Trump came in and he was flooding the zone, as the phrase is, and it just became kind of overwhelming, and nobody was prepared to push back because on either side of the house, really, or as far as foreign leaders were concerned, because everybody was so terrified, tiptoeing around the man, concerned about what he would do using America as a weapon. But lately, you mentioned Mark Carney. He gave Trump a metaphorical punch in the face. Emmanuel Macron just landed in Greenland and said that that it's not for sale. But Gavin Newsom, which is the name that you mentioned a little while ago, he's the governor of California, and he has really stepped up in the last couple of weeks, hasn't he?
I interviewed Gavin Newsom during the campaign out in Denver when I was with Adam Bolton, I believe, and he was absolutely charming, wonderful, very bright, and he's got a great vineyard going, Pump Jack Wines, and we talked a little bit about wine, but we talked about politics. He's a very formidable man, and he's a very handsome fellow. He's very articulate. He's powerful. He knows what he's doing, and I'm not campaigning for him, but Trump better watch out for him because people will generate and will get excited about someone like Gavin Newsom because they're all talking about there's not many Democrats on board, but Newsom is someone, and Newsom will not be pushed, and he will push back on Trump. So Trump's got to be careful with him.
And Trump's already threatened that he's going to withhold federal grants and the money that California has requested to get over the fires that you had there.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, to hold back grants, and we had desperate fires, terrible fires in the San Francisco area a few months back, and it devastated the economy. And to hold back money or to use that as a point to manipulate the situation is criminal. And I'm saying the Attorney General, by the way, is supposed to be independent and defending the Constitution. But our Attorney General, who he appointed, is basically one of his clones, and he will not do this. She will stay in there. But let's see what happens in the midterms. And in the meantime, he's trying to be in the middle of this Israel and in Iran crisis. He's trying to not commit and not say anything, but he wants to be the powerhouse. And he thinks there's going to be a deal. He's going to make a deal with Israel and Iran. Maybe they're going to buy his crypto watches, and somehow they're going to come to the table with him, and they're going to stop fighting each other and shooting drones, which is dreadful.
Yes, and Trump, the day before Israel attacked, Trump said that he didn't want Israel to attack because he was about to sit down and have talks with Iran. And then Israel went and did it anyway. And then either Trump was playing with Israel and it was the plan all along and he was just kidding on about the talks, or Trump was desperately trying to save face by kidding on that he knew what Israel was going to do. Which of the above is true?
Well, it's always look at Trump in terms of his ego and his wanting to master the situation and prove to the world that he is the number one man. And Netanyahu is another piece of work, I have to say. So, Netanyahu is not going to stand for a nuclear Iran, and Trump is now being told by Netanyahu, I believe, that the Ayatollah was responsible. Ready for this one? Far-fetched. The Ayatollah was responsible for the attempted assassination on Trump in Pennsylvania. Now, I don't know anything about the Ayatollah's efficiency with a long gun, but I don't think he was responsible for that. But it's all up in the air, and it's all crazy, and you can imagine how we feel. You know, it's difficult just to be alive in this country right now. People are anxiety. The TV commercials are all about bloated tummies and acid indigestion. And and I think people are probably having one extra martini in the evening. I mean, it's tough. It's tough times, but we have to come together. America, Great Britain, France, our allies, Greenland, Denmark, all the EU and the G7 people, we have to come together and make sure that we are there to stand for what is right and what is the democratic way, and that's our great nations. And I think that's the important thing we have to realize. And I'm sorry, Trump, you're not part of the equation.
John, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks very much for your time.
Cheers, mate.
Jon-Christopher Bua, White House correspondent for Real Political News. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your calls and messages and so on. If you missed any of today's show, you can listen back on Catch Up on both Global Player and the new LBC app, on which you can read and watch the latest from LBC. You can put your news categories in the order that you want, and you can pause and